this argument. We catch 22. So you enslaved all these people, you induced some others to join, so that's a mud hole, and then you hired people to equip them all, and that's the end of the story right there.
Let me interrupt just for a second. We ended at 1:45. Let's take another 5 minutes and we'll have some questions.
Okay, well, I'm pretty much done now. I'll just wrap it up here by saying that there have been 3 prongs to the standard story about World War II. One is elimination of unemployment. Standard answer's wrong. Standard models don't fit. Enslave enough people, you got no unemployment. Second prong, miracle of production. High output, usually explained by massive government spending and massive increases in the stock of money. Irrelevant. You didn't have to spend all that money. You could have told the Boeing company, produce that B-29 for a nickel. They didn't have any choice. If they didn't do it, the plant would be taken over. As it turned out, you know, most of the guys running the war economy were businessmen. They didn't want to make Boeing make airplanes for a nickel. They thought they deserved a fair return. And so that's what they gave them across the board. By the time the war got going in 1942, there were more than 10,000 businessmen who resigned their jobs in private firms and become what is called dollar-a-year men, or sometimes walk men without compensation. They didn't even get $1. They just served in these jobs at the War Production Board or any one of many other government agencies that regulated the war economy, controlling it. So businessmen took over control of the war economy, and that's one reason the guy from Boeing could talk to the guy from the war economy. They had similar backgrounds, might have known each other before or something like that. I know the zinc industry, which I studied extensively, the zinc and lead, a lot of it came from Idaho, Coeur d'Alene Valley. The guys from the mining companies became the guys who worked in the copper industries, and they became the guys working for the government to regulate those mill industries. It was all cozy. Wasn't capitalism, but it was cozy fascism in that case. But anyhow, that's the miracle of production. There's no miracle. There's just an enormous sacrifice of civilian goods and services, eating up of capital stock, and the production of arbitrarily priced military outputs. We know that we produced a lot. We don't have any way to value. We don't have any way to value. It's not the same. How much stuff did USSR produce in a particular year of its history? We don't know. There's no way to know. The American economists went over there and they took these phony figures that the Soviets produced about the units produced and how many tons of cement, how many tons of steel, and so forth. And they priced them using either the Soviets' own arbitrary prices or Western prices. They said, oh, these Soviets have phony baloney prices. We'll apply Western prices. But how stupid is that? Why would you apply Western prices? Westerners weren't the people making the choices that resulted in the demands, that resulted in the prices. That's nutty. It's like, you know, this guy telling me that the slaves got X amount of income because he priced their cornmeal at some price he got for in the civilian markets for cornmeal. But the slaves didn't get to choose if they wanted cornmeal. They may have wanted oatmeal. What the hell? But it wasn't theirs to decide. So arbitrary price, no miracle of production. Consumer orgy, no. Besides the fact that a lot of things weren't available at all, there was rationing of thousands of ordinary goods. Clothing, all kinds of clothing, shoes, footwear of all kinds, canned foods, meats, you name it. The stuff that everybody wanted to buy at the market all the time just to live a normal life. You couldn't buy, and you couldn't at all buy any kind of durable goods. If you wanted to replace your furnace, your kitchen range, none of that. during the war, because the government shut down those kinds of firms because they were more easily converted to producing guns or other military equipment. So consumers were not in heaven, they were in very bad shape. And that's why I say the Great Depression actually started in 1929 and didn't end until 1946. The form of it changed around 1941, but it was still depression, it was still massive privation, and just, it was still entirely the product of government decision making. 1929 and before, is part of what happened in 29 was the result of government decisions made for years before that. But this is all brought to you by the state, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're inclined to take a right view of statism, you might want to rework your way through the United States from 1913 to 1946 and see what kinds of miracles the state actually performs when it's at its strongest. Gives you a lot of unhappy people, a lot of dead people. That's what it does best. Okay. We've got a few minutes until quarter of, if somebody has a question or comment. Yes, sir.
Since the demand was so high for tanks and everything used for defense,
Right.
how come the private sector naturally didn't start producing that kind of stuff? Why did that have to be forced since there was money to be made?
It didn't always have to be forced. Some of the contractors were happy enough to say, here's what you want. The War Department wants to have contractors come forward and bid. So some people were happy to bid. But a lot of people were not. And one of the reasons a lot of people were not in the beginning of the war is that from about 1935 on, the President of the United States and his chief subordinates had been beating up private producers, investors, bankers, and blaming them for the Great Depression. And the government had been so hostile toward business people for years on end that they didn't trust the government. This looks like it would be lucrative, but we just don't trust the government. We don't know what they're going to do. They might take it back after they give it to us. They might penalize us. They might do all sorts of things. And in fact, the government did take back a substantial amount of way to pay war contractors through something called renegotiation. Renegotiation was authorized by Congress during the war, and it meant that they could come in and take a perfectly legal contract they had made with you, and you delivered the product, everything was hunky-dory, and they'd say, no, we paid you too much. We're going to take back some of what we gave you. or if a contract was not terminated yet, they had to adjust